sustainability lead at Findorff, and I'm going to be jumping around through a couple different resources. Probably just take maybe 10 to 15 minutes, I believe, is the target for a presentation on the ways that we at Findorff interface sustainability, example kind of on some outreach, and then additionally a project and maybe a couple items we have time on what we're doing internally. A little bit on my background. My role is dedicated to full-time sustainability. I have a project management background and educational background in civil and environmental engineering, and then a master's in sustainability leadership. I kind of pivoted in my career a couple years ago to focus 100% of my time on sustainability and have been very supported by Findorff in that effort to kind of raise awareness and drive more sustainability concepts into our projects and everyday lives. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Findorff, we're a general contractor. I'm headquartered in Madison, but have a presence in Milwaukee and Wausau as well. We do commercial construction work across the state primarily. We do get out of state a little bit, and we do anything essentially non-single family residential. A lot of healthcare, a lot of science and tech, a lot of K-12 education, which will be one of the projects I highlight here in a little bit. The other thing I want to highlight about the way kind of we operate as an organization is, my role is really support to our project management staff, to others internally, our pre-construction staff, and we've got a couple other support, divisions that support our well aligned with this discussion. One of them being a mechanical, electrical, plumbing team, MEP team, who really does have a deeper background in systems control, from plumbing, electrical, HVAC and beyond, and really kind of puts that subject matter expertise into our projects. We also have a virtual construction department, I believe, of 9 folks who, do augmented reality, virtual reality, work a lot with 3D modeling. We do have a few drone pilots. And then the last kind of division is our quality division. But without further ado, I want to walk through pretty quickly. What you see on your screen is a sustainability forum that we held in our Madison office. And I'm going to try to make this full screen. Is that still visible to the group?
Yeah, I see the sort of red slide.
Yep, learn how sustainable drivers can.
Yep.
Okay, awesome. So I want to run through quick a sustainability forum we had, which is kind of a first delivery method that we've tried internally. This happened in Madison in April. And the idea was really external outreach to bring business owners, bring our architect, engineering partners into the room. There were some developers, some school districts as well, and really have a conversation about how can sustainability impact your bottom line. We were speaking to a diverse audience in terms of how we wanted people to take away kind of high-level concepts, and you'll see that as we go through with the topics that are highlighted, but these do tie back to energy at the core. So we had 4 panelists. He brought in Renew Wisconsin, Tyler Hebner, Focus on Energy with Barb, Slipstream, Jason Stringer, speaking to Property Assessed Clean Energy, and then we wanted the business perspective, and Nathan from Kohler, who's been doing sustainability for many decades at Kohler, brought that perspective. So from a solar perspective, the takeaways, we spent probably 5 to 7 minutes with each topic, so it was really concise to the point. Solar costs have gone down significantly over the last decade, obviously, and as we look at how people can grab onto, attendees to the forum can grab on to tidbits and have something to take away, we really wanted to structure, let's talk about a typical project. So this one was a $183,000 100 kilowatt example for solar. So if that's your project, in theory, how do grants, incentives, tax credits, depreciation, et cetera, kind of filter into that in a broader spectrum, just to give people a snapshot of, while the initial cost may be $183,000, there are means to lower your cost through these strategies to take 50% of your cost out of it. So, and what we try to do is have, short, easy takeaways, providing people tangible, here are resources to find installers, things you might want to look at with net metering practices, and then, hey, this is a great time for solar because the tax credit structure does start to change starting in 2020. Solar is a topic on a lot of people's minds immediately when they talk about, in Findorff's world with buildings, solar is, one of the first things that comes up typically. Focus on energy is really core to everything we do around energy efficiency. It's one of the most standardized deliveries we have on our projects. I have a number of around $1.5 million back to our owners on Findorff projects through Focus on Energy money, incentive money, and that goes obviously direct from that Focus on Energy bucket into the owner's pocket. If we can provide that value and make sure we're connecting owners with those resources that are sitting there for them to use and do heighten the awareness around energy efficiency and renewable energy, we want to do that. Barb gave a high-level overview of the incentive structures, and again, talking about, hey, here are some example projects, and here are what the design team incentive and owner incentives were for those projects. Again, just to give people, some people may not know coming in the door, is this a 5,000, 10,000, 50,000, 100,000? So I think providing those boundaries for at least them to understand kind of what order of magnitude is was important and what we wanted people to walk away with. Property assessed clean energy PACE is one that we don't deal with a lot, but it does come up. The Weston project in Milwaukee, and Jeff Gerritsen knows probably more details about that than I do, but I believe that was the largest PACE project in the state at the time. And Milwaukee, the city of Milwaukee has a PACE program, and there's a PACE Wisconsin program, which is now expanding this on a county by county basis. So what PACE does is provide upfront low interest financing for energy efficiency and renewable energy strategies built around the energy savings. So again, this program and the extent of where it's being implemented is growing and changing by the day, by the week. Our strategy with PACE was really to provide high level takeaways, right? So it can finance 100% of the eligible costs. And again, that's all based off of an energy model and how much projected energy savings you have over the lifetime of those building systems. It's non-recourse financing, transfers to new ownership upon sale. So the financing stays with the property. So with Focus on Energy, it's an incentive, not going to cover all the costs, but it's going to be able to help people implement more energy efficiency measures and renewable energy. PACE financing is meant to tackle that. I don't have the upfront money to deal with this, so let's look at low interest financing measures to tackle that barrier. So really getting to how these different programs can work together, because they should work together, to make the financial case more desirable. So at the end of the day, that's where most of our conversations end up. And then Kohler, an organization, they didn't start practicing sustainability yesterday, right? They've been doing it for decades. So what does that look like? What does sustainability look like in an organization like Kohler that does have a large global footprint, got intensive manufacturing processes, it's got a large workforce? So Nathan at Kohler did speak to this net positive by design approach and some of the specific goals they have. What was important for us, there were building owners in the room and other organizations that have an appetite for sustainability and growing that. So for them, they really laid out a powerful case for how to build a community of sustainability leaders internal to an organization. And this resonates with me, and I'm the only dedicated sustainability person at Findorff, but my goal and my role to really provide resources, provide education, and be able to empower those people internally who want to do more to bring up the idea about new technologies on their projects around energy and water, or to do things in their outside of work life around, environmental awareness, et cetera, whatever it might be. What's the role of sustainability within an organization? So that was a really interesting piece. And it does tie into, attraction and retention of employees, because sustainability is something that, I can attest does get brought up in a lot of interviews with younger candidates in our company. So that was the quick overview of the forum. It was our first shot. Like I said, it was meant to be high level to try to speak to all those stakeholders that were in the room. The next way I wanted to pivot the presentation here, one project I wanted to touch on. At Findorff, we have over $1 billion of LEED experience. So certification is a huge piece of how we deliver sustainability on projects. Health and wellness is a trend that we see, and there are third-party certifications to deliver on that. In terms of the occupants of buildings, we're working on the Oregon Elementary School with just south of Madison. And this is a project that has really been one of the first for us to dive into the idea of a net zero energy building. The concept obviously has been around for a long time, but this is really the first opportunity to really dive in a bit deeper. And it ties into a lot of the concepts around energy efficiency, and Focus on Energy is being utilized on this project. So, a lot of these conversations do overlap. But this is an in-construction project, so unfortunately, I'll have to wait a few years to see performance results. I wanted to highlight the project from a few different strategies that the project undertook in order to go along that path to think about net zero energy building. So obviously, this was a greenfield site, so site orientation and building orientation was essential. And obviously that includes modeling the building, the daylight, etc. There's extensive energy modeling done, and building systems included here are roof mounted PV array, obviously large when we're talking net zero in order to offset the demand of a elementary school. This does incorporate geothermal heating and cooling. On the water side, there's some rainwater collection, excuse me, for outdoor irrigation. They're looking at the use of battery backup for emergency and peak demand use. And then obviously LED lighting and controls are a fundamental part of it. The other thing, you know, one thing that excites me about projects like this in the K-12 world is that when we can take, you know, a vision of sustainability through net zero or health and wellness or whatever it might be, and be able to then take that and turn it into, you know, curriculum-based or something outward-facing where students in this building are going to be able to learn about energy use and, you know, the story of their school, that has profound impacts that are really hard to measure. This is a big implementation, even smaller implementations that expose different technologies and strategies in K-12 to me is a really interesting opportunity. I wanted to highlight Oregon. They didn't start practicing sustainability with this project. They had, you know, previous buildings that had looked at solar. They do a lot of really deep energy, you know, energy efficiency study and, you know, knowing where their use is coming from. So I think, you know, they saw this as the opportunity to take that to the next level. And I think that's typical for a lot of organizations where you got to kind of be able to give people an entry point. So if organizations or companies aren't doing a lot around sustainability, you got to kind of meet them where they are and give them something that's a little more palatable. And then, you know, with organizations that have a longer standing program around sustainability or whatever it might be, then this you know, depth of, you know, let's look at something more cutting edge technology, more broad implementation, like a full building here. I think that's where the conversations progress. So, you know, internal to our operations at Findorff, you know, we've got 3 offices around the state. We've got prefabrication shop. We've got our yard operations in Madison as well. And, you know, while we're always looking for, you know, cutting edge opportunities to implement on our projects, you know, we're still in the realm of, we're looking at retro commissioning for existing buildings. We're still looking at, you know, LED overhauls. We're looking at potentially our first solar implementations. And those are things that have been around for a while. So we're, you know, looking to push on some of the lower hanging fruit items while I think more broadly trying to push the envelope in other areas. But that balance of, you know, pushing those things that have been around and are just common sense solutions versus finding ways to implement, you know, the cutting edge technology that is really going to make a big difference. That's definitely a challenge and not something I have the answer to, but I think the collaboration with MWork is a great way to understand what's out there and ways that they can potentially be brought into buildings in whatever way that happens. My contact information, you know, we have a sustainability page on our website where my contact information is posted. My phone number is 608-228-6083. I'm more than happy if folks reach out that way. Or my email is baustin, AUSTIN, @findorff.com. More than one way to find me. So yeah, if you've got questions on anything that we've talked about, feel free to reach out. And Nate, I'm remembering the conversation we had. I talked right off the bat about, you know, these different divisions of Findorff, and specifically, you know, we're building the enclosure now at Oregon, but, you know, this even just overlaying different services we have internally around our drone technology and our virtual construction team, the collaboration with sustainability and the project management folks, you know, we're looking at thermal imaging drones to be able to map the exterior of the building. Obviously, any building, it's important. But when we're talking about, you know, wanting to make sure every little penetration on the outside of the building is tight, Thermal imaging gives us the opportunity to leverage technology, in this case, to analyze an exterior building envelope in a net zero pursuit to make sure that, it's an assurance really, right? To make sure that our exterior envelope's tight and we're doing our due diligence, maybe beyond what we're used to, because now we have new technology with drones and thermal imaging available, and we have those in-house resources. So Nate, you and I have talked about that in the past, and I would expect that, thermal imaging is something we have done for a while, but I would think this kind of collaboration with technology and finding new ways to implement it is something that will continue to expand as we move forward. So I wanted to not forget that.